It's Election Day tomorrow in Kentucky. One of the important choices voters will make is the Democratic nominee to challenge Mitch McConnell in the Senate race in Kentucky this year. And for the first time in history, Kentucky is allowing absentee voting for anyone who wants an absentee ballot due to concerns over the coronavirus. You don't have to have some excuse for the absentee ballot about being out of town. But Kentucky could be headed for an Election Day disaster because there will be fewer than 200 polling locations in the entire state of Kentucky. Jefferson County, which includes the city of Louisville, is home to half of Kentucky's black voters. During a normal election year, Jefferson County alone has 256 polling locations. Tomorrow, the Louisville Exposition Center with 350 voting booths will be the only polling location for Jefferson County's more than 610,000 voters. Joining our discussion now is LaTosha Brown. She's the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. LaTosha, what are you expecting tomorrow in Kentucky?
You know, we don't know what to expect. We have just been seeing this over and over again. Here is a county, people would know that there's 600,000 people. There's 600,000 voters. You've gone from 3,700 polling sites down to 200 polling sites. We have half of the population. This is a robust election cycle because of how competitive the Democratic race is. And so we're very, very concerned about what's going to happen. Even when we're talking about 350 booths, our understanding is that there are going to be 18 lines and 25 people a line. You know, that sounds good on one hand, you know, everything goes well. But when you're talking about massive crowds coming, we experienced this just recently in Georgia. It was a different system, but we experienced that. And then 50% of the African-American population, this looks like, it feels like voter suppression. That ultimately, in a time that we're talking about a pandemic, in the middle of a crisis, we want to have people spread out. We don't want to have one site. Just the thinking around it. That's why there was a bipartisan committee that actually took this to court to try to stop it, but the judge denied the motion. And so what we're looking at, we're very, very concerned around what is going to happen tomorrow, how people who have to work, who can't stand in lines a long time, and people's extended exposure to possibly to COVID-19.
Yeah, I mean, 600,000 voters is an enormous number of voters to have with basically one polling place. That's like the island of Manhattan having one polling place. The Democratic governor of Kentucky seems okay with this. Let's listen to what he said.
There can be concerns about one polling location, though I don't think it's being done intentionally to suppress the vote. But at the end of the day, I believe we're going to have more people vote in this primary than I've ever seen. I think we're going to have our largest turnout.
So he says he doesn't think it's being done to suppress the vote.
So whether it's intentional or unintentional, the real fundamental question is, do people have free and equal access to the ballot? The question is, will this election be efficient and effective? There's no way that you've got a population of over 600,000 that you're going to have one polling site. We know that there are going to be problems tomorrow. We can anticipate that just on recognizing the numbers. And so whether there's an intentionality around it or not, there are many that believe that it's intentional, right? But whether it's intentional or not, or whether you prove that or not, is a secondary issue. The first issue is, do we have an efficient and effective way to make sure that people are not standing in lines for extended period of time during the worst health pandemic that we've seen in this country in the last 100 years? It's unconscionable of what is happening right now. The fact of the matter is there's more than 500,000 people that literally have one polling site. That has not been done before. And I don't know what way that could be efficient, effective in any form or fashion.